Okay. Let's see. All right. Hi, welcome to another episode of Meet the Authors. We're here with Paityn Parque. Did I get that correct?
Paityn Parque.
Parquet. Oh, okay, so no, I didn't. So I've been mispronouncing it in my head for weeks now. All right, but anyway, so welcome aboard, and you're going to talk about Madness, your new novel that just came out not too long ago. It's already got a lot of good reviews on it, though. So to get us, I just want to do a couple of plugs before we get started here. There are some other events that are coming up if you're an author and you're interested. We have the Authors Event Network that one of our former guests on this podcast has founded that basically helps authors go to physical events. So that's something that might or might not be interesting to you, especially in the Seattle area. I know he's got a lot going on down there. And also, if you're more interested in international outreach, we have one of our former guests is also hosts something out of London, I think, called the let me get it right, Finger on the Pulse. Which happens monthly, where they get together and or Fiction Fix related to Finger on the Pulse is the Facebook group, I think, where they invite authors on to read a little bit of an excerpt from some of their stuff, and then you can reach out to Helen Gould. She's on an email list that we've got, and also you can see her link to her from, I think, my website. But anyway, so that's enough of the business. Let's get to the book. So I read the book, and I thought it was engaging, and I thought it was hard to put down. It was one of those where I was constantly concerned about what's going on with the character. So every time I put it down, I found that I would pick it back up again. So which was great. That's what you want as an author. So I guess I have some questions about that. For one thing, it's a very creepy book, so in a good way.
Yeah.
What was your inspiration for writing, I guess, in the horror genre generally, and more specifically this book concept?
So when I was little, I used to read a lot of zombie novels, like all the time. I used to clear out our local library, and then I went on to ebooks, and I just would not stop reading. And then I was a very picky reader, so that's all I would read. And I think that kind of, after, I don't know if you know the Rotten Ruin series by Jonathan Marbury. I don't know, it's a young adult fiction. So after I read that, I started getting into writing fan fiction based off of the series. So like continuing his series. And I think that sort of just blossomed into like my general interest to write horror books. I mean, I've always been surrounded by like that sort of thing, so it's been really fascinating for me. But for my like main book, I sort of just like happened. I never had any intention to publish this or to get it into a novel. It sort of just like created an idea in my head, so I just wrote on from that, and it just kept on going.
That's really cool. Yeah, it reads like it starts off with, well, I don't want to give too much away, but it starts off with the murder of the protagonist, I guess, which is an unusual approach. I don't think a lot of people do that, kill off the protagonist right away, but which she gets better, don't worry. But the concept of the book kind of reminded me of lit RPG, which is for our authors out there that aren't familiar. It's where you take a character and you give them like benchmarks along the way, and as they progress, and then they grow in their strengths, and they take on new abilities and do different things, and eventually typically overcome this like serious baddie, I guess, at the end, which you took a little bit of a different approach. But what inspired you to like kind of inject that aspect to it? Is that just something where did you come up with that?
I was always fascinated with like the idea of like the main character not being the hero. So I mean, I think it's more of an original idea than just going like the general route of the main character being the hero. But she sort of has both aspects in her, it's very controversial for each reader to think about. Like someone could take it a different way. So I think that's what I've ultimately wanted, and that's what I've created, you know. So yeah.
Take it a different way, meaning that if I read the book, then can you elaborate on that a little bit?
So like people can take her as she's good, but she doesn't, like, she means well, but she does bad things, or she's just ultimately like she has an ultimate plan that's not um the right of way. So she people could take either way of how they see her in their eyes, if
Oh, I
that makes
see.
sense. I
So
don't.
it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, totally. So it's like the difference between a someone that has a goal in mind and is attempting to achieve or attempting to make it to a certain point, and someone who is more um, um,
Like bad intentions, like
yeah,
sort of that
a
thing.
little bit more negative. I thought that was interesting. I thought it was interesting that she did struggle a lot with some of her decisions, and
Hmm.
even though she was in the process of struggling with some of her decisions, like fighting or whether she would help or hurt the people around her, whether she even trusted the people around her, um, drove a lot of her decisions. So I thought that was an interesting. I thought that was a good thing to do, to put her, to make it difficult for the reader to, or I don't want to say difficult. I want to say uh, engaging for the reader, because we I feel like you did, even with the complexity that you added. I feel like we still find ourselves rooting for Ezra at the beginning. And when she makes that pivotal transition, and I don't want to say too much, you're welcome to say whatever you want to, but I don't want to give it away too much. When she makes that pivotal transition, eventually in the novel, then even though it was kind of a darker scene, if you will, I don't know if you're following what I'm talking about. I may have to get more
No, I
specific.
do. Yeah.
Okay, then even though it was darker, I find myself rooting for the character, even though arguably the transition she was making wasn't necessarily a good transition.
Yeah. So I mean, that's what I've always like wanted to write about. I didn't really want to write about, the like cliche, like, hero and then they save everything. Like, yeah, there's some character development in that, but there's a lot more to be written about if the if it went from good to bad instead of bad to good, you know.
Sure. Uh, so is this your lot? Is this is one of your books? You've mentioned some fan fiction. Are you planning? Are you doing anything with the fan fiction, or is that just kind of a hobby of yours? Or
Um, I've written two full-length novels before this one, but I never had the chance to publish them because when I wrote them when I was way back younger, and just like the grammatical errors and the development wasn't it would be a pain to edit it all and get it cleaned up. But so um I've written a lot of like short stories and stuff, but never really gone far with those.
yeah, I think we can all kind of understand that. I've got my Models and Citizens, which was my first novel that I put out last year. Is the probably 10 years before is when I started, and I actually wrote three full-length novels that were a trilogy that I wanted to get published when I thought I was super awesome, back before I realized that I didn't know what I was doing, and they will never see the light of day. So, so you're in good
Yeah.
company with when you say that.
Oh yeah.
At the end, you kind of leave a cliffhanger. Um, are you writing the following novel?
I am. I'm actually finished with the second novel. I'm in the editing stages right now, but um, I I plan to have this series continue on. So
Oh, awesome. I'm kind of curious. I have so many questions about what happens next, but I'm not going to ask any of them. So now that you've been on this journey and you've completed your first novel, which is really, I thought, was free of like a lot of the pitfalls that most, including myself, folks fall into, which are, I know that I have this ongoing battle with commas, and which I lose periodically because I have no idea how to use commas properly. I
mhm.
just stick them in random places. So, but I noticed that yours read pretty fluidly, and you obviously did spend a lot of time editing and got other people to have a look at it, which is great. I wonder if you learned what you learned along the way that you might want to share with like other authors like yourself that are just getting started.
Um, I had a huge tendency to overwrite a lot. And my first draft of that book was about uh, 100,000 words, and I skimmed it down to 60,000. And that's only because my writing mentor, she told me that if less is better, because in like young adult novels, it distracts the reader a lot from the main drive of the plot. So it was very hard for me to like cut out a lot of the things because I just thought like it was not enough in my book. I thought I needed more, but in reality, like I could have condensed like 2 paragraphs into 2 sentences. So it's a lot of nitpicky work, but in the end, it really paid off.
Yeah, that 2 paragraphs to 2 sentences thing, that just makes me cringe a little bit because I think we've all been there. I know
Yeah.
I just finished editing one of my novels that's going to come out next year, and I cut down. I actually deleted an entire handful of chapters because they were totally unnecessary, which I only realized after completing the novel and after waiting for like a month and then coming back to it, and then I figured it out. But it's one of those things. Good on you for finding that stuff early. Do you have somebody that edits this stuff for you, or like?
No, I edit it all, and then after I just have it send it off to a professional service to get it cleaned up.
Okay. Oh, good. And how did you decide on your cover design? Because I thought this was pretty. I mean that captures your attention right away, and it gives you a little bit about what the story is about. How did you come to this as your cover design?
So it was all by coincidence. I actually so this part of the book, not the title, but this it was a pre-made cover, and I bought it off of some other website. And then I had the title and my name put in. So I kind of thought that it all worked out in a sense. I was just looking for really eye-catching covers, and that obviously caught my attention. I, photoshopped it a little, but it it worked out really well. So I'm
Yeah,
super
no,
happy with the results.
I agree. It definitely did. There's a lot of your novel like that is actually right here, sitting in the cover. If after you read it, then you realize that there's way more. It's very relevant. Very relevant. Yeah,
Hmm.
and that's so. Is that what your plan is for your next novel? Is you're going to take that same approach as far as
Yeah.
your cover design? Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's good. A lot of us aspiring authors, and I think a few podcasts back we had a conversation about this. We fancy ourselves to be able to do everything, and which means that we often design our own covers, which is I think, at least for me and for most people, is probably a huge mistake because there's a significant difference between, as you've realized, between writing a book and designing a cover. So, um, what other nuggets of wisdom do you feel like you can convey at this point now that you're got your novel out
Um,
there?
I know a lot of authors struggle with writer's block, and I did too, as any author would. But um, it was to a point where I gave up on writing that book and editing, and I just thought like I'm done. Like I have no motivation at all to keep going. But I my one thing to say to all the authors out there is that like you just have to keep going, because in the end it will pay off. And I've given up on this book for about 6 months. Like I dropped it because I was so busy with school and sports, and I just couldn't focus on it. And then eventually, like one day I just had a spark, like an idea that made me want to go write. But I already had this fully written book out, like why don't I just finish it? Because it's been a dream of mine to be an author. So I've really wanted to persevere and accomplish that goal. So you just have to like do the little things. If you can't write, then you just edit what you already have, like you just have to switch up and refresh the brain. So I think that's really worked out for me.
Oh, good. So you like to, your process then is you write a little bit and then you wait for 6 months and then you come back and do it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking. Yeah, I think I personally, and I think a lot of us have multiple projects going on for that reason. It's hard to stay focused, and that's good advice. It's just to, sometimes you just have to power through. Like usually it's great if you have the inspiration, but for me, I don't know about you, but for me, the inspiration is not always there. um, so let's see. So where can I get this? Where can I get this book? Are you only selling through Amazon, or are you going widely distributing?
I was, and then I realized like KDP Select was more of my better option. So I'm actually selling the paperback version of this on Barnes Noble, but only the paperback and ebook on Amazon. So
Okay. So, and you chose KDP Select because what were some of your reasons for making that decision?
mainly, well, in the beginning when I first released my book, I had it on a lot of platforms, and I realized that I wasn't making any sales from those. Like, not even anyone would like see the cover, like not even be interested. So I was like, maybe it's just not getting the attention that it needs. So I realized that KDP Select promotes the book for me and has been doing good on there. So I'm super happy with that.
Okay, good. And I noticed that you have a lot of reviews. A lot of
Mhm.
folks seem to like your book. So good job, congratulations.
Thank you.
How did you go about getting those? Are those all organic? This is for author to author and for other authors. So, are those all organic? Did you use a service? How did you get that?
So it was just tooth and nail work. I literally emailed about 300 to 400 reviewers a day for like a week, and just mentioned them my book, and a lot of them replied, and I was super happy with it. So all of those are all voluntary reviews. So um I don't think I've had like I've only had like 2 or 3 couple like reviews that weren't voluntary. Like someone had actually bought my book and read it and reviewed it. But I mean, it was hard work, but it paid off because I got all of these reviews now, and a lot of people are getting seeing my book now in the website.
Good.
So
Good. Are you
yeah,
doing any advertising at this point, or
no,
no? Okay.
no,
So it's all whatever the Amazon algorithm determines dictates your fate at this point.
yeah.
Awesome. All right. So just thinking it through, is this going to be a trilogy? You said you have the second one out. Are you planning on a third?
Yes, yes, for sure.
Okay.
I don't know if it's gonna stay a trilogy or be in more, so I still have to decide on that if I write the third book. But yeah.
Okay. Um, so I guess now's your chance to share whatever um, other ideas that you or thoughts, or do you, I guess, what other inspirations have you had going into this? Not just like you mentioned that you wanted to be a writer for a long time, or an author, which I assume to a lot of people, author means that you're actually selling books, not that you're just writing. Not I don't want to use the term diminutively, just writing, but not, that
Mhm.
you're actually trying to sell books. So what kind of drives your inspiration? Why would you want to be an author, I guess?
Um, my grandpa, he was an author like me, and he published his books traditionally with a publishing company. But I just, he passed away in 2012, I think. But I just think that like he would be really proud of me, and I wanted to take after his inspiration a lot. So, I mean, I guess it sort of runs in the family. A lot of my family members have become authors or were writers. So,
Okay.
you know,
Well, that's really cool. I'm sure it
thank
would
you.
be with this one. That's really well. Um, all right. So what we normally do around this time is we have the whoever's in the audience to kind of chime in, and we can just do a free chat. So this is your chance for any questions, topics, whatever goes, whatever you want to say. It kind of opens up at this point. So do you have any questions or about the industry that that other authors may have dealt with on the show before, or anything that you want to talk about?
Um, I was thinking about getting my book traditionally published, like being it, all of that process and stuff. But I don't really know how that would work. I've looked into it, and I'm not about the money for my sales and stuff. I'm just about getting the recognition and all of that for my book. But I mean, how would I, go about that? Because I know it's already self-published, so.
Right. um, so that's a good question. I'm working on that too, but I'm not working on it with the book that I've already published. I don't know how it works for existing books that you publish. There is somebody that you can reach out to though that probably knows a little bit more about the process. Let me think. Trying to think who has gone through the traditional publication. Guy Morris, his Authors Event Network, we have a few traditionally published members that are in that network. So if you're interested in, even if you're not interested in doing the events, then you could probably reach out and find out more about, and we can put you in contact with somebody that's in that group to kind of help guide you along. I know they're interested in doing that. So I'll see if I can track down an email and share it with you.
Okay.
I don't know, because there's a lot I don't know. Here's what I do know. What I do know is it's very important to have the stuff that you've already done is very important. So having a good cover is as important, if not more important, for your for traditional publication as it is for indie. Also, the having your stuff professionally edited is huge too. What I've learned recently is that, especially because I'm in Portland right now, and I've been talking to folks at Powell's Books to try to carry my indie stuff. So that's just getting into bookstores, so that won't really help. I think traditionally published, you still kind of need an agent. That's where I would start. And your editor might be able to offer you the query letter services, which doesn't mean they write the query letter, but if you write the query letter, then they'll review it and refine it for you and that should help get you, at least get you to that first stage. There's also Kirkus reviews. Have you heard of Kirkus reviews?
I have.
Okay. Yeah, they're expensive, but they are also worth it, because if you get a good review through Kirkus, then that helps you have that conversation, if that makes sense. So I don't know if you've already have you submitted to Kirkus for review? Okay. So that's kind of one of the things that the literary market looks for, because there are two kind of markets. There's the indie market, which you're already in, which is mainly ebooks and selling directly to people and giving customers what they want. And then there's the publishing market, the traditional publishing market that you're talking about. And they're more along the lines of, it's got to be a certain level. There's got to be a certain quality bar, because if you're indie, you can publish because you can do it all yourself. You can publish without hitting the quality. I'm not saying I like your book. I think you definitely got quality there, but you have to prove it if you want to get traditionally published. So that helps. Just to have that helps you have the conversation, and then once you have the conversation with different with people, then you can work on it from there.
Okay.
I don't know what the rules are about if you're already published with this particular novel. Or are you thinking about going traditionally published with a different novel?
With the same novel. I was researching, and I think that I have to take it off the market to get traditionally published, but I'm not sure. So I still have to research into it.
What's your motivation for traditionally publishing, just out of curiosity?
Just to get more recognition. I know that like traditionally published, it's a lot more easier to get recognized and stuff. I just want to kind of like build up my author name and stuff. So
Oh, I see. So yeah, and a lot of, if you listen to, do you listen to any podcasts, any author podcasts?
mm-mm.
Check out, there's a podcast called Six Figure Authors. And what that is there are three authors that Joe Lalo, Lindsay Broker, and oh no, I forgot the last one. This is embarrassing. I'm gonna have to send an official apology email or something. But if you listen to that, they've all three of them have been in the publication, have been traditionally published, and they have also been, and they also do indie author or indie publishing. So that's a good way to kind of get a feeling for both sides. They get into details about like why would you choose one above the other and stuff like that, which I think is kind of an important an important decision to make. Are you trying to be self-sufficient with your publishing, or is it more like you just want the recognition?
Um,
Do you
it's
want
in
the books to pay
between.
for themselves, I guess? Go ahead.
No, just more recognition. I don't really care too much about the money and stuff.
Okay. Yeah, that's a decision. Um, okay. Yeah, I'll see if I try Six Figure Authors. That'd be a good place to look. They have a Facebook group that goes along with their podcast, and if you post questions out there, then they're pretty good about responding, or somebody in that community will.
Okay.
There's also, yeah, I have more, but I'll put links. I'll send links out secondary. What other
Perfect.
things are you struggling with?
Um, I think a lot of people knock off my book because of my age. So I think like, oh, she's 15, like I wouldn't read that book because it's not gonna be, good. But I mean, I don't I feel like a lot of people knock it off before they even get a chance to read it. So that's something that I've been struggling with, even though, it's just
Yeah,
sort of
I didn't hear that. I'll be honest, that thought didn't cross my mind really. What did cross my mind was that as a first book out, that's generally, especially as an indie author, self-published, that's kind of one of those things where I'm like, because I know that I didn't know what I was doing when I published my first book.
mhm,
Since then I've revised it multiple times and bought a new cover and all that stuff. So it's better. But I know it also, I was still very much in the process of learning. So that's the only thing that I would say that in my mind that you were up against. Um I don't know, did you ever think about hiding your age? Because you kind of just come right out with it.
um, not really. I mean, it's either all in or all out. I mean, people, if readers, if they like the book, they're gonna find out that I'm younger,
Right.
so and if people do like the book, I think that it would be, pretty they would be pretty like, I mean, sort of like amazed that I'm 15, because I like in a sense, like I don't really like how do I put this? My age doesn't define my writing, but it does define my skill level as per se, because as I get older, I'm gonna have better writing and more concise and better development and all of that. So in a sense, it does affect it, but it doesn't at the same time.
I see. Yeah, yeah. Getting people to take that first chance. I think with the reviews that you have, I think that's probably pretty odd. That'll help a lot of people get past it.
Yeah.
Um, that's one of the things that I kind of intentionally didn't put your age on my website or anything. Not just in case people came by that were kind of having that mentality. So
hmm
um, so yeah, I definitely see what you're talking about, and it works the other way too. Like when you get to be older, you try to hide your age also. So
Yeah.
um, so the horror genre, I always ask this question, and I'm always curious because there seems to be a line in horror between like getting too graphic and not really qualifying as horror. So on the one side, you're not graphic enough to shock anybody, and on the other side, it's just so so disturbing that people walk away with like, what on earth just happened? How did you pick that balance?
Um, I'm gonna be honest with you, I never really had an intention to write a horror novel at all. And I think that's kind of how it balanced out because with me not having the intention of writing a horror novel, but also me writing a very gory and darker novel, I think it really like balanced it out. So it was very unintentional. A lot of this in this book is very unintentional. So it all worked out for me in the end. So I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, there's definitely, if you're into horror, you're watching this podcast right now, there's definitely, you're going to get some graphic scenes in there. That's gonna, and some disturbing images. I personally consume a lot of horror fiction, horror, sci-fi, fantasy. That's kind of my whole wheelhouse there. So didn't really shock me too much, but it did. It was. I'm always curious about where that line is, because I do have, I do have limits with like the level of horror that I will go for. And
Mhm.
there's like I guess I don't even know what all the genres are. There's splatter, there's there are tons of different words for it. I couldn't even begin to tell you. Um, but that's interesting. And your settings, let me ask you about your settings. So I the whole story kind of takes place in this dark, really kind of, I guess, basically woods. It feels like, where there are these cottages or like houses, shelters at least,
Mhm.
interspersed throughout. What did you use to draw? Where did you draw from to create that environment? Was that just something that occurred to you? Is that something that's from your life?
Um, I was always like, I always thought like, I mean, not really an inspiration or motivation, but I've always been surrounded with like, like supernatural stuff when I'm reading books. Like it always happens outdoors and never like indoors, right? And I've always been fascinated with like the outdoors as well. So I really wanted a game or like a world where it's all outdoors and everything's open world, sort of. So
Okay, and I thought that the boundaries were pretty neat. The way that you did
yeah.
the boundaries. Um,
And then PK's Peacekeeper's Gate in the middle, I derived that from a game. It's a video game called For Honor. So it was based off a character, and she, she's more of like the protector of people. So it's sort of like derived. I got the name from her, and then just like the concept of protecting where people can't, have any like conflict inside of there. So I know that's one thing that I got there.
sure, that was a good concept. I was wondering where, because when you have this whole melee thing happening, and you set the ground rules before the reader learns anything about this Peacekeeper's Gate, and so, but there's a lot of tension that you manage to you take advantage of the Peacekeeper's Gate to create a lot of tension. And I thought that was really great, because the characters would be fighting it out one minute, everyone killing each other, and then now these same characters are all like smashed together in this confined space where they can't really, or they literally can't do anything to each other. And so that's a great recipe for conflict. That really does
Mhm.
help to build it.
And that's why, like, off of I made it transition from like, the outdoors to smooth concrete. I don't know if you picked up on that, but like once players are off of that concrete, it's fair game. So that's where the like idea where players are getting hunted outside of it, but it's sort of like a safe haven for everyone. So
Sure. One thing that I was kind of curious about, I don't know how much I should ask, but I'm gonna ask it. Spoiler alert if you happen to be listening to this. So in the Peacekeeper's Gate, it occurred to me that there were some people that seemed like they were just there. Like the first time that Ezra makes it to the Peacekeeper's Gate, you have the library, or at least it felt like a library to me, where she went in to get the book. I guess it was kind of more of a store-ish type of place. And then there was somebody that was just happened to be in there, and I felt like, and there, you may not have explicitly said it, but something from the description just made me feel like that person, that's just where they were, and they stayed. Were there, in your mind, were there people that just kind of camped out in Peacekeeper's Gate, or was that not something that happened?
No, for sure. People, I mean, if you're in that game, a lot of people would choose different routes, and some people would just hide and not want to see the conflict of the day. So a lot of people would camp out, and they would just stay there so that they wouldn't have to ultimately die. But then again, they'd be stuck there forever because
Right.
they have no way of getting out.
Okay. Oh, good. Yeah. So I did pick up on that. All right. Awesome. Let's see, what else, other questions, burning questions do I have? I really just want to know if she manages to overthrow, or if they're even need to be overthrown. That's what I want to know. I want the next book. Okay. So, but I'll drop it there. Oh,
Who
I
was your
always ask
favorite
this.
character?
Good. My favorite character. I think Shadow, really.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. I think the Jake was he was an interesting character in that you played a lot with his. Obviously there's a lot going on like underneath there, and for what he'd been through, he came across as amazingly sane, which was interesting. Or was it Jake or was it Jack?
Jack.
Jack. Okay, yeah, I got that wrong. I was reading something else also. So yeah, he came across as really disturbingly sane, and by disturbingly sane, I mean there's no way you come through like what he's been through and be as reasonable as he is, or as he seems to be with life. So kind of, or with the people that he interacts with. So when it got to the point kind of toward the end where Ezra and he were having their conversation about all the stuff that he'd actually been doing, then that was kind of like an aha moment. Like, okay, so he definitely did not come through this completely as cool as he has been pretending the whole time. So I thought that was well done. So completely unrelated to writing question. Star Wars or Star Trek? We often ask this question to people. So which
Star Wars?
Star Wars? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm Star Trek. I think
really?
Justin was Star Wars as well. Yeah. So why Star Wars?
I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen Star Trek.
You know what? You're not the first person to answer that, actually. Okay.
Yeah,
so what was your first Star Wars that you saw then? Was it one of the like A New Hope or something?
No, it was the very first one. It's been a long time since I've seen them, but in the beginning I hated Star Wars, and I don't know why, I just never watched it. I thought it was like really geeky and but then my dad was forced me to sit down and watch the whole entire series, and I just fell in love with it. So I mean, yeah, I haven't seen Star Trek, so I'm not going to say anything about it, but
so
I'm not going
to take stabs at Star Trek.
Yeah.
I always come down on the Star Trek side of this. And the second question that we often ask is, if you had, or that we've asked before, is if you had to choose one superpower out of all the superpowers that you've learned of, like different superhero characters, etc. What would it be, and what would you use your power for?
I'd say either telekinesis or teleportation. I'm leaning towards more teleportation, maybe, because that's like really, really convenient. If I don't even need a car, I could just go and go anywhere I want to. But the main reason, like, if I wouldn't say it, I always think of myself as like some character in a different world, because now I'm thinking like I would use it to go be like Jack, be able to be a superior fighter in the battles. But yeah, but
sure,
there's a lot of different aspects to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see teleportation. I think I asked my daughter's 8, and I asked her this question, and she says that she wants to be able to do mind control, which is a lot funnier if you know my daughter, because she's definitely pulling strings of everyone around her. It's great. My personal I like teleportation too, but when I think about it, I think about like the commute, like driving to work. It would be a lot easier. It's a very
Yeah.
selfish motivation, but there you have it. Uh, let's see, what other questions do we have? And you can feel free to interrupt or chime in at any point. This is the segment where we just generally chat. Um, oh, have you seen the new Dune yet, or is that even on your
I have
list?
not. I not really. I saw the new Eternals though, so I really liked it. It was very it was different. Have you seen it?
No,
Or
nope. I haven't seen
no?
Eternals or Dune either. I was going to actually ask. So tell me about Eternals though, because that's on my list. So
Um
just
so
give me
obviously
the high level.
Marvel has nothing to do with any of like the original like, you know, Marvel stuff. So um it was very different. I enjoyed it because I don't want to spoil anything for you in case you see it, but um
You don't have to worry about that. I'm not. It's not going to spoil anything.
it I'd say it was engaging. It wasn't really slow. Um it was just kind of like iffy for me in the middle of it. It was sort of just like, what are we doing here? Like, why am I watching this? Because it
What?
didn't really like some of the plot didn't make sense, and it just kind of like it was really irrelevant to say, and it was just kind of dragging on. That makes sense. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I would watch it. I would watch it again, but just be wary of that part.
Okay. So
So,
it gets slow and a little, and the
yeah,
cohesion is not where it should be necessarily. Kind of in
yeah.
the middle. Got it. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll definitely keep an eye out for that. All right. Latest. This is another one that we sometimes ask. What's your favorite book, and what's your least favorite book, and why?
um, got a lot of favorite books. Um, I'd say um Escape. No, I'd say Devil's Engine by Alexander Gordon Smith. I really love his series. Um, that's one of my favorite books. My least favorite book is a chemistry science book. I'm just kidding. I wouldn't really
Or do you have a least favorite author? And if you don't have to badmouth anybody on there. I was just curious. That was just a curiosity thing.
um I haven't really read any bad books because most of the books that I like, I'm a very picky reader, so the books that I pick out pretty interesting. So I don't really have to. The ones that I don't like are the ones that I'm forced to read in school. So
I got you. Okay. All
yeah.
right. Yeah. So let's see. What is my favorite book that I've been reading lately? There's a lot. So I think my favorite book lately has been the um, Talking to the Dead, but it's not a fiction book, so I'm kind of like hesitant to say that. It's a book about about there was in Victorian England for a period of time. There was this like late 1700s, early 1800s. They were interested in communicating with the dead people, and there was this whole like industry that kind of sprung up at the time, where these two sisters, I think Kate was one of them, went through, and they basically had a tour where they went through the parts of the United States holding seances at
Hmm.
all the fancier houses. And that's what this book is about. It like chronicles their lives and the different uh, things that they went through, and eventually they were discredited like later on, and discredited by people who once, science kind of catches up, and the scrutiny and everything kind of, it all fell apart eventually. So and I thought it was an interesting yet tragic story, and it was told in a really interesting way. I do have a least favorite author, but I guess I can't begrudge him too much. So it's James Patterson. I'm not really a James Patterson fan, because if you reread his books, then at the end of every chapter, he'll finish saying something, and then at the beginning of the next chapter, he'll say what he just said at the previous chapter. And I think that's so that you can put the book down and come back to it. I don't really know why he does it, but he does it, and it irritates me. And every time I try to read one of his books, I end up giving up on it. That being said, he sells an insane amount of books and makes a ton of money. So I mean, I probably am wrong about him as an author, but he's definitely on my least favorite list.
Come to think of it, I've actually do have a series that I don't enjoy, and a lot of people ridicule me for it, but I don't enjoy the Harry Potter series.
Oh, that's blasphemy.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Just not my cup of tea. I mean, kudos to Rowling. I mean, she one of the biggest authors out there, so I mean, she's obviously doing something right.
I'm sure she's very upset that you don't like her series. No. Yeah, you know what? I didn't want to. That's one of those that I didn't want to like that series. And I didn't read it until like years after it wasn't popular. Like before I started it before the movies started coming out, because I felt guilty because I had said that I was never going to that I didn't like it, and I hadn't even read it. So I sat down to read it, and I didn't like the first one because I don't think I was the target audience for that one, because the writing is very like I just don't think it's very good. And I don't.
Right.
So I can see as you get through. I don't know if you got through any of the other part of the series, but as you get through the series, her writing does improve. But then by the time you get to the end, the last two novels are part of especially the last novel. My question is, okay, why? I don't understand understand why this is unfolding the way it did. It's almost like she kind of just needed to end the series, but it took her 1,000 words to do it. Not 1,000 words, that's an exaggeration. So I like Harry Potter. I like the movies. That was fun. But I'm with you as far as the books go, for the first book and the last book. But I think I disagree with the ones in between. I think she actually did some pretty good stuff in there. But that's okay. Let's see.
What was your favorite book that was turned into a movie besides the Harry Potter?
Yeah, that's a good one. Recently, no, I can't really claim that one. All right, it's kind of cheating, but I'm going to go with Watchmen. And that really comes down to your definition of book, because it was a graphic novel first, and then transition. I don't know if that counts. But
no, that counts.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so that's definitely it. Go ahead.
I'd say mine is Chaos Walking, though they didn't really do a good job with the movie, but I really enjoyed the book. It's by Patrick Ness. I don't know if you saw the movie or not.
No, I haven't seen the movie. But if you go back like 3-4 podcasts ago, Justin and I both read that one. And we talked about it on the podcast. That was a great book. And that was another one of those where I was like, I really don't want to like this because it's getting way too popular, way too fast.
Yeah.
But then I sat down and first the present tense kind of threw me. Or not, it wasn't present tense, but the first person, the way that he told the story kind of threw me, especially with all the words like cluttering in and interrupting everything. But once I got used to that, I was like, hey, that's all right. I could do this. I haven't watched the movie because I'm afraid that I don't know that there is a successful way to do that. How did they try to do it in the movie?
They really cut out a lot of things. As you know, it's a trilogy in a 1 hour movie, but they really left out some good details, and they sort of made it like PG instead of PG-13, which I didn't like. They really didn't like add all the descriptions and what I forget his name. Was it What was the main character's name?
Oh,
Todd. It was Todd,
yeah,
right?
something. It
Todd.
was
Yeah.
something like that, probably.
Yeah. They really didn't get his character on, even though Tom Holland was playing him, which I thought would have been a great fit, but they didn't really portray it right. So
Yeah, an hour and a
I was
half.
upset about that.
Yeah, is
Yeah,
that?
something like that.
Yeah, yeah. I don't see doing that. I don't see how you could pull that off.
Yeah.
Did they try to compress? Because I've only read the first book so far. I haven't moved on to the rest of it. Did they try to compress like everything into that, or just the first book into that?
No, everything.
Oh wow, the first book alone would be longer than that. That's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a stretch. I didn't like how they portrayed like how all the thoughts and everything. It wasn't really how it was in the book. So
So there
it
wasn't
was
just like
actually
this constant running noise going on. It was more like how did they do it? Was it just like images they tried to
so
do it with?
it was mainly with images, and then um like thoughts is just voices, of course, but like with images, it just didn't um it wasn't adding up to the book per se. So it was just like sort of using it like a supernatural effect more than how the book was, which I
Oh,
didn't
I
like.
see.
Yeah.
That's a shame. Yeah, there were some great details, especially those cows. I really liked. I mean, they weren't cows, but I really enjoyed those. Okay, cool. Well, thank you for joining us on Meet the Authors today. The
Yeah.
book
Thank you
is
for having me.
yeah, sure. Feel free to come back at any point when your next book comes out. Let us know. Madness is a great book. I recommend it. It's a fantastic work, especially for a first one. But even not for a first one, you still knocked out a bunch of established authors that, or a bunch of like authors that I've read. You've definitely done better. So don't think about this book as somebody's first one. Just think about it as it's a good book. I really recommend it. All right. Well, thank you. Have a fantastic holiday weekend, and you'll be able to see this. I'll upload it probably later today. It'll be accessible on YouTube, and yeah, go from there. All right.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
All right.
Thank you. Have a good
Okay.
one.
Bye.
Bye.